Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Wild Rift video. In this week's video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the strongest champions in Wild Rift at the moment, Kha'Zix. As always, I'm going to be showing you what build you should be running, the runes, I'll show you how to play Kha'Zix, his abilities, and I have gameplay to show off to you all as well. As always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what your thoughts of Kha'Zix are. Kha'Zix is an assassin that primarily gets played in the jungle role. He uses his fast jungle clear speed and mobility to get an advantage and move around the map so he can assassinate anyone in his path. Throughout the game, every time Kha'Zix levels up his ultimate, he's able to upgrade one of his abilities. When you upgrade Kha'Zix's abilities, it gives him more power throughout the game. It could give him either more leap range, more spikes, more attack range, or even allow him to turn invisible for longer. Now moving on to the build with Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix benefits a lot from attack damage, armor penetration, and ability haste. This allows him to do a lot of damage throughout the whole game and allows his abilities to be up more often. Now with that in mind, the first item we have for today's build is Duskblade. Duskblade gives him that nice attack damage, ability ace, and armor penetration, which I just spoke about, and has a really nice passive that works well with his kit. With Night Stalker, being unseen for 1 second causes your next attack against a champion to deal bonus physical damage and slows them by 99% for 0.25 seconds. So if you're hiding in a bush or if you're using your ultimate, you can use this Night Stalker passive to deal more damage and to slow down the enemies. Moving on to the next item, we have Youmuu's Ghostblade. Again, the attack damage, ability ace, and armor penetration I mentioned. You also have another really nice passive, Momentum. Movement builds momentum and granting up to 50 movement speed at 100 stacks, but if you attack, it removes all the momentum. This is really good when you're roaming around the jungle and you're looking for ganks and you want to just catch up on the enemies. For boots, the plated steel caps is a really good option. You can also go for mercury treads if you're against a lot of ability power damage. And in terms of boots upgrade, the one I like to always go for is the stasis. Now the stasis allows you to just turn invulnerable for a few seconds. This allows your abilities to come off cooldown if you've used all of them, so you can either jump away or jump back in to try and get even more kills. Moving on to the next item, we have Zoraid's Grudge. Again, more attack damage, more ability haste, and more armor penetration. And Zoraid's Grudge also has a really nice passive as well, Icy. Damaging active abilities and empowered attacks, slow enemies by 30% for 1 second. Now at this point of the game, when you build in Zoraid's Grudge, you might have the second ability upgraded. It allows you to fire out multiple spikes and you can actually slow with these spikes. But on top of that, you can also use the Icy effect as well. So you get the slow from your second ability and you also get the slow from the Icy passive on Zoraid's Grudge. Moving on, we have Black Cleaver. You got a little bit of health in there to keep you alive a little bit longer. Again, more attack damage and more ability haste. And with the passives, you have the Sunder passive. So dealing physical damage to a champion reduces their armor by 5% for a few seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. So this adds on top of all the armor penetration that you already have in the build. And with Rage, dealing physical damage grants movement speed and kills grant even extra movement speed as well. So when you're jumping on top of them champions using your damage, you'll be able to get that movement speed so you can catch up and you can keep killing multiple enemies. And lastly, we have Guardian Angel. Now, Guardian Angel is your defensive item to kind of keep yourself alive when you're jumping into the enemy backlines. You get some attack damage, you get the armor, but the main purpose is for that resurrect. So upon taking lethal damage, so if you would normally die, instead you come back to life and you restore 50% of your base HP and also 30% mana as well. So if you're jumping in, if you do go a bit too far, you can use the Guardian Angel passive to be able to get back alive, and then you can either jump away or even try and jump forward to try and finish off them kills. Now moving on to the runes, first up we have Electrocute. With Electrocute, hitting an enemy champion with 3 separate attacks or abilities in 3 seconds deals bonus adaptive damage. Really easy for Kha'Zix when you're jumping on someone to use your first ability, use your second ability, and you can easily proc execute every single time. Moving on, we have Brutal. Brutal just gives you a little bit of extra attack damage, especially early on, to try and help you clear out the jungle a lot quicker, so you can get to them fights and you can start ganking a lot quicker. Moving on, we have Hunter Titan. With Kha'Zix, you will be jumping around and you will be in fights a lot. You gain a little bit of max health early on to kind of help you in the jungle, but also every unique takedown, it grants even more health and you get a little bit of tenacity as well. And lastly, we have Mastermind. Attacks and abilities deal 10% bonus true damage to epic monsters. So that's Rift Herald, Baron, and Dragons. And you deal 10% bonus damage to turrets as well. So this is really nice when you're taking down them turrets as a jungler or trying to take down the epic monsters. And also you earn an extra 120 gold as well upon taking or assisting in taking these objectives. So a little bit of extra gold to help you try and get that power spike even sooner. And lastly, for the summoner spells, we have Flash and we have Smite. It's really important to take Smite to help you clear out the jungle and to help secure them objectives. Now it's time to move into the abilities for Kha'Zix. First up, we have his passive, which is Unseen Threat. Enhances the next attack against enemy champions to deal additional magic damage and also slow by 25% for 2 seconds as well. An Unseen Threat is refreshed when the enemy team loses sight of Kha'Zix. So this could be maybe in your ultimate or even going into a bush and then coming out of a bush again. For Kha'Zix's first ability, we have Taste Their Fear. Kha'Zix slashes with his claws, dealing physical damage, and if the target is isolated, the damage is increased by 110%. You also have the evolved version, the upgrade version as well, which is Evolved Reaper Claws. The attacks and Taste Their Fear gain 50 range and 45% of Taste Their Fear's cooldown is refunded against isolated targets. And enemies without enemy units or structures nearby are isolated. Now you can tell when someone is isolated by the symbol, for example on this dummy, the little purple circle around the edge, that is the radius of the isolation. So basically if anyone steps inside that circle, it means that that enemy won't be isolated anymore. When using the first ability, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is tap the ability and it will slash to the nearest enemy. And as you can see, I do the extra damage as well because the enemy dummy is isolated. Now, when upgrading your first ability, as you can see, Kha'Zix extends his claws and now Taste Their Fear is now upgraded. So now I can auto attack from further range and I can also use my first ability from further away as well. Moving on to the second ability, we have Void Spike. 5 spikes that deal physical damage and heals Kha'Zix as well if he is within the explosion. And the evolved version, the Spike Racks, fires 2 additional spikes, revealing and slowing enemies by 60% for 2 seconds. Now, as you can see, the range is not that long. All you have to do is fire up the spike and it will deal a little bit of damage. Now, the evolved version, as mentioned, it will fire out 2 additional spikes. As you can see, the aiming is a little bit different. It will do a little bit of extra damage and it will slow down the enemies as well. It's a really strong ability to evolve and it's really good, especially when you get into them team fights. You can do them AoE slows that will help your team out. Moving on to Kha'Zix's third ability, we have Leap. Now, Leap is pretty simple. It just leaps to a target area, dealing a little bit of physical damage. And the evolved version, Evolved Wings, gains 250 range on Leap, and Leap's cooldown is reset as well on champion takedowns. Now, this is Kha'Zix's most important evolve, especially for the Leap cooldown reset. It allows you to jump into team fights, get them kills, and jump out of them fights when you get that reset. Now, as you can see, the radius of the leap at the moment is not that big. All you do is just leap to an enemy and you deal a little bit of damage. Now, when you upgrade Leap, you'll be able to see now that it goes a lot further. As you can see, I can pretty much jump all the way over to the bush at the top as well. And as mentioned, with Leap, if you do get a takedown, the Leap will reset. So you can jump into team fights, get a quick kill, and then jump away again. As you can see, you can get pretty far with the Leap, so you can kind of get away from any difficult situation. And last but by no means least, we have his ultimate Void Assault. Now the passive, each rank in Void Assault allows Kha'Zix to evolve one of his abilities. This means that you can only evolve 3 of Kha'Zix's abilities every single game. You can evolve the abilities when you level up your ultimate at level 5, level 9 and level 13. And the active allows Kha'Zix to become invisible and gain movement speed for just over a second, and Void Assault can be recast again within the next 10 seconds. Now the evolved version allows the invisibility duration to be increased by 2 seconds and can be cast 3 times instead of 2 times. Now with Kha'Zix and his ultimate, it works really well with the passive. When you use your ultimate, you basically become unseen, so your next attack will deal that little bit of extra damage from your passive and slow down the enemies. And as you can see, I can use it again within the next 10 seconds and I can get that passive proc off again. Now just with the original ultimate, it's good enough, but as mentioned, you can upgrade it into the evolved version. As you can see, Kha'Zix is now red and you can use your ultimate to up to 3 times now. You can use your ultimate, and as you can see, the invisibility lasts for even longer. You can use your ultimate again within that few seconds. You can auto attack, and you can even use your ultimate again as well. So that's 3 times that you can use your ultimate. You can proc your passive and your dust blade, and you'll be able to basically move around the whole team fight and deal a lot of damage. Now for Kha'Zix, with his leveling priority, the first ability you want to go for is your first ability. This just does a lot of damage, especially when clearing out the jungle, and especially early on when you try and get either the red or the blue buff. And as you level up, when you go for level 2, you want to get your second ability. It allows Kha'Zix to heal when clearing out the jungle, and also does a nice AoE damage, so it can help when you clear the raptors or the wolves. Then at level 3, you want to go for your third ability, the leap, and then you want to make sure that you always max your first ability. Now with your first ultimate point, the first evolve you want to go for is your first ability. This allows you to basically deal a lot more damage, allows you to fight from range as well, and it allows you to get that little bit of ability haste when you deal damage to an isolated target. As you level up after your first ultimate, you want to keep on leveling up your first ability, and then after you max your first ability, you want to max your second ability. Now for your second point in your ultimate, you want to go for leap. At this point of the game, you will have a few items, so you'll be able to jump into team fights or jump in to catch out an enemy, isolate them, and being able to do a lot of damage, and then after you get that kill, you can jump away to safety again. Now after your second evolve, you want to carry on maxing your second ability, and then after that, go for your third ability. Now for your third and final ultimate point, and for your evolve, you want to go for your second ability. This is really good, especially during team fights, and also works well with Soraida's Grudge. As mentioned, you get the slow from the spikes, and you also get the slow from Soraida's Grudge. So you can basically zone out and slow a lot of enemies during an entire team fight. Then after that, you want to make sure that you max your third ability. And at this point of the game, you have your 3 evolved abilities. You'll have a lot of items. So your main purpose now is to move around and try and find them isolated targets. So you can catch them out, kill them really quickly, and jump away to safety again. Overall, Kha'Zix is the strongest jungler at the moment in the current meta. With Kha'Zix, you're able to solo carry really easily. You don't have to rely on your teammates too much. The main purpose of Kha'Zix is to try and roam around, stay isolated, stay hidden, so when an enemy does pop up, you're able to jump on them, kill them really quickly, and then jump away to safety again, and that will give the rest of your team a big advantage. In the early game, Kha'Zix does really well at clearing the jungle, so make sure you clear as much of the jungle as possible. And when you're contesting them scuttle crabs, you can pretty much win any duel early on against any other junglers. So make sure you play aggressive, take them scuttle crabs, and try and get that early advantage. So when you do get the items and you do scale into the mid and the late game, you'll be able to one-shot pretty much anyone on the enemy team. And there you have it. There is my guide for the Voidreaver Kha'Zix. He's a really fun champion to play, and it's really satisfying to be able to jump in, kill an enemy, and then just jump away to safety again. Take care of yourselves. Hope you all have a good rest of the day, and I hope to see you all very soon. Peace out.